Yeah, I want to make sure that we have enough time for all of the great content that Thomas has prepared. So yeah,
Yep.
would love to pivot there if that's okay.
Right on. I'll pass it back to you to introduce Thomas, and we'll go from there.
Oh, sure. Yeah, we're really pleased. I'll keep it very brief. We're really pleased to have Thomas Bartholomew join us from Washington, D.C.'s Solar for All program. I think a lot of the concepts that we talked about today are really exemplified in this program, and I think I'll just leave it at that and pass over to Thomas to jump into it. Thanks so much, Thomas, for joining us. Over to you.
No, thank you guys. Happy to take this opportunity to talk to you guys about our Solar for All program, which we are very proud of. So in this beginning slide, it's really the only slide I have that has pictures, but I think it kind of illustrates sort of the sort of key components of our program. So we, on the left there, you see some of my colleagues. They're on a commercial rooftop in downtown Washington, D.C. And those are solar panels on both the roof and then also on the sort of the wall there, the parapet wall. So they're sort of sort of on the side of the building effectively. And the benefits of those solar panels are going to go to low-income customers elsewhere in DC. Sort of our model, the sort of motto we use, the sort of marketing we use is that solar can be free. Anyone can participate in solar in the district. And so our program allows folks who are sort of income qualified, those who earn below 80% of the area median income can qualify for free solar. And then you see at the right, my colleagues signing up qualified residents in an apartment building in DC. If you want to go to the next slide.
Yep.
Yeah, so this is kind of our mission statement. So our goal is to serve 100,000 low to moderate income families in the district by 2032 with the benefits of solar energy. All of our new participants in the program should expect to receive a 50% savings on their electric bill every year for 15 years. Next slide. And so, our program was established in 2016, and we sort of divided the implementation of the program up into phases of 3 years each. So the first phase was what we call the innovation and expansion grant phase. And so during that phase of the program, our program is funded through a fee charged to electric suppliers that operate in the district. DC has kind of an open electric supplier model. So we have one utility that manages the grid, the electric grid, but anybody that sets up as a supplier in the district, that qualifies as a supplier in the district, can provide energy to residents, through that process, and residents have the ability to select their energy supplier. And so all those suppliers pay a fee if they deliver energy that doesn't meet the renewable portfolio standard that was established for the district. So the renewable portfolio standard has a goal of, each year it sort of ratchets up. There's a sort of a greater and greater percentage of energy that has to come from the renewable portfolio standard. And so anytime they don't meet that standard, they have to pay a fee. And so we get money from that, and we use that money to purchase solar energy and turn it over to low-income residents. So in the beginning part, the first phase, we wanted to try out a whole bunch of different benefit models just to see what worked best. And so during that phase, we served 8,600 district residents. Not all of them received 50% off their bill, but they all received in some way benefits from the solar energy. And so we installed about 7 megawatts of solar in the district, and we're developing kind of like a lessons learned document that sort of talks about all the different things we learned from that. That's still in process. But sort of the key thing was we tried out these different benefit models, and some of those models included like just directly giving people credits on their electric bill for the solar. Some included for buildings that where residents don't actually receive an electric bill, that the building got like a new roof and some other sort of retrofits through the solar grant. And then sometimes like the energy would go and like would power a community room in the building. Other benefits include some residents of buildings are going to get like credits for buying groceries, all different kinds of stuff. So we tried out all the different benefit models we could. And the one that we sort of settled on is sort of this bill credits model. And so in 2020, we're deploying another 7 megawatts of capacity to serve over 2,700 residents with credits around $500 annually, which is about 50%, which is about a 50% savings on the average electric bill in the district. And so it's a pretty decent sized savings. And we began working on sort of a co-benefit model. So there's a federal program in the United States called the Low Income Home Energy Assistance Program. And in the district, it's administered by sort of the same agency I work for, the Department of Energy and Environment. And so we're working with them to sort of try to pair our benefit, our Solar for All benefit, with their benefit, which also helps to reduce energy costs for residents, so that it's sort of giving like a sort of a 1-2 punch, so that residents whose energy costs are a lot of their sort of annual expenses kind of get the biggest savings, and it's sort of done in a coordinated fashion. So next slide, please. So this is some more details about how we've sort of structured the eligibility for the program. So residents, as I said, are eligible for the program if they earn up to 80% of the area median income. That's a threshold that's set by the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. And you can sort of see that at the right there, that's the threshold. So if there's one person in your household, the threshold is $67,000, and it goes up depending on how many people in your household. So it's quite a range. So there are definitely some folks in here who earn like a pretty decent living who qualify for our program. So residents are sort of, as we say, categorically eligible if they receive heating, electric and heating assistance, SNAP, which is what we call the food stamp program in the U.S. It's assistance for folks to get food if they don't earn a certain amount of money. TANF, which is our welfare program. Or they receive a low-income utility discount, or they live in a property that you have to like earn below a certain income to live there. All those people are sort of automatically eligible, and they just have to sign a couple forms stating that they want to be enrolled. And so otherwise, we take care of the sort of the paperwork on that end. They have to be enrolled. They have to pay their own utility bill, and so they are enrolled through their account with the local utility, which is PEPCO. Next slide. And so this slide is just sort of talking about like our customer interaction sort of philosophy. So we're really focused on reducing administrative burdens for folks. And sort of the administrative burden thing has kind of been a big sort of a big focus of mine in particular. And if anybody's looking to sort of learn more about that, there's a book that sort of talks about the U.S. context with regard to thinking about administrative burdens for government. It's called Administrative Burden Policymaking by Other Means. It's by Pamela Hurd and Daniel P. Moynihan. And it just sort of talks about all the different ways that government can sort of can be more thoughtful about how whatever requirements it imposes on residents, how those can affect how people actually use the system and or interact with the system. Because the more sort of hurdles you place into getting someone signed up with the program, the less likely they are to sign up. It's not, rocket science, but it is something we have to be thoughtful about. And so at Wright, we've created this document which talks about like trying to make it as easy as possible for people to understand how to sign up for the program. So we say you can sign up in 4 easy steps. You make sure you're income qualified, you complete the application, you demonstrate you're eligible, and you submit. And so we've created a dedicated outreach team of 3 employees, all of whom have sort of community knowledge and experience. 2 of them are actually from their native residents of the district, and they live in some of the sort of the parts of the city that we're particularly targeting for sign up, the lowest income parts of the city. And we do we do signups at other government benefit centers where people are already coming to sign up for government benefits to make it easier for them to sign up. Anyone who's enrolling in our low-income heating and energy assistance program is automatically given the option to sign up, and they will be signed up if they want to. And so we also do community education events, and we've been targeting a particular neighborhood in Southeast DC where we've funded a large solar array. It's called the Oxen Run neighborhood. And so we wanted the residents who are having that facility located right in their neighborhood to benefit directly from it. So we've been targeting them particularly for outreach. We have a grantee that helps us with subscription management called Groundswell. They're a sort of a nonprofit organization that works in DC and elsewhere in the United States. They have sort of a mission around expanding access to solar energy. And they're helping us with providing regular communications to program participants. They're creating a benefits dashboard where anybody who signed up for the program can see their benefits and see how much energy they're saving and and how much they're helping the climate with what they're doing. And they're also helping to interface with the local utility because the utility is just like any other utility. They have lots of other stuff going on, and so Groundswell helps to keep on top of any sort of customer issues that go on with the utilities sort of helping to manage the program. So the next slide.
Thomas, I'm wondering if you'd be willing to try something with me, just in the interest of time. Are you okay if we skipped ahead to key lessons learned, and then we can backtrack a couple of slides from there?
Yep, that's fine.
So much.
That's fine.
Skip ahead just a little bit. Yep.
Yeah, so these are some of our key lessons learned, and I think that they're all kind of around the same topic. So utilizing government service centers, residents are already signing up for other benefits is really efficient because people are already there to do business, and it's sort of like builds trust because our program is a new program. By leveraging other government programs and people's understanding of those programs, it sort of helps to build their trust and understanding of what we're doing. It's just like another layer on top of what they're already receiving, as opposed to just some brand new thing that's hard for them to understand. We're building all of our solar within the District of Columbia in our city, and so site access for the solar is always an ongoing issue, and we have to be creative about how we think about fitting it in. I sort of like that picture I had at the beginning, which shows the panels both just on the roof itself and then also on the parapet wall. Think about different ways that you can fit the solar into an urban context. Really helps with making sure you can deliver the benefits to everybody. Having outreach staff that know and understand the community. Like I said, 2 of our residents are sort of native residents of the district, and they often when they're out doing outreach, they'll run to friends, family members. All that helps to sort of build trust and understanding. Partnering with other government agencies. So we've partnered with agencies that already are delivering benefits to sort of our lower income residents. So they help provide sort of a greater understanding of those communities and greater access to sort of the trust that they've already built with them. Yeah.
Thanks, Thomas. I want to pause here for quick and say that what I absolutely love about your presentation is that even though you're speaking in specific of solar as a technology, I think the lessons, you've done a great job of pulling the lessons and making that relatable to any technology, like building efficiencies or retrofits or heat pumps or what have you, like securing site, just utilizing existing services, reducing administrative costs, working with local community members are, I think, broad lessons for all of us up here in Canada for all the programs that we're developing. I want to pause here and just ask the room if there are any questions that Thomas can answer, and then when we have time towards the end, we could probably go back a couple of slides if that's okay with you, Thomas.
That sounds great.
Any questions? Feel free to chime in, and or if you can't, just type them in the chat. So Thomas, while we wait for folks to chime in, I had a question that came up when I was working with some of the cities. Is when you talk about having other government agencies, that that build trust with communities you're already serving, do you see a role for other non-government agencies as well, like local partners, community groups, and what has your experience been with that sort of thing?
Yeah, no, I don't mean to just limit it to government agencies. I mean, that was maybe where we got the most bang for our buck, was working with our other agency partners. But really, any trusted community group can be a huge help in setting up any kind of program like this. So we've talked to local church groups, religious organizations. We've talked to all kinds of, we've done presentations. So DC has kind of an interesting model. We have this sort of thing called advisory neighborhood councils, and so they all represent different small parts of the city, different neighborhoods. So we've gone to them, and so that's like a very neighborhood-based thing where residents can come and like ask questions. We've done presentations to organizations that provide services to like housing assistance or food assistance when people will sort of go out of work. All those organizations have really helped with, and particularly probably the group that's been the most helpful is folks that provide sort of nonprofits that provide housing. They do nonprofit housing development. All those organizations have really helped us to understand how to work with these folks better, how to do better outreach, what issues are important to them, what are some of the sort of administrative challenges that are involved in setting up this kind of program.
Excellent, thank you. And I have a follow-up question on that. This is something that we experience a lot here in Canadian cities, is a bit of a chicken and egg problem. As a city, do you first develop a program and then go engage with your partners and say, here's what we have in mind? Because sometimes when you go first and then ask people, you might open yourself up to a lot of perhaps promises that you may not be able to deliver on. So how do you balance that?
Yeah, no, but balancing promises is always a struggle for government. So I mean, like I said, we did try out this sort of initial model where we sort of tried a whole bunch of different strategies. That was kind of our opening gambit, and I think that was helpful for both building our understanding of the best way to move forward, as well as sort of the community that supports us, their understanding, because we had a bunch of different organizations that we gave grants to, and they all tried out different strategies. So I think somebody was earlier was talking about sort of like bulk purchasing solar options. So there's an organization in DC, and it's actually in other places in the U.S. too. It's called Solar United Neighbors. They do a lot of solar bulk purchasing at a sort of a community level, and so we gave them a grant, and they tried out a model where they were sort of doing their kind of bulk purchasing model to sort of deliver benefits to a whole bunch of different residents. And so, they learned something from that. We learned something from that, giving them that grant. And so it wasn't like we started off with sort of like a one-size-fits-all model. We tried out a whole bunch of different models, and then we've kind of settled on the one we think is the most scalable to serve the most people.
Thanks, Thomas. Any questions for Thomas? I'm going to go back a couple of slides. Thanks for working with me on this. So, consumer protections, I think, is what you wanted to touch on before.
Yeah. So this consumer protections piece. So the sort of overarching theme is one of equity, and that's the equity thing there is sort of that's from our program's kind of strategic plan. Build capacity for including equity in all of our programs. And so the key to that is really in sort of some of the things I've already talked about, but then also maintaining good records for residents, minimizing the information we collect from them to what is absolutely necessary, following up with residents promptly, focusing on the burdens, and then sort of targeting those who are most vulnerable, because a lot of people get the idea of equity mixed up with equality or being equal. And of course, that's not really the case. Equity is really about fairness, and sort of usually when somebody is sort of underserved, they don't just need like a little bit. They can sometimes need a lot. And so making sure that we're sort of providing what they really need, not just what seems like equal to what somebody else is getting. If you want to go to the next slide. Yeah, and I thought I'd, since you guys were talking about workforce development, this is sort of our workforce development program. It's called SolarWorks DC. It's a partnership between my agency and our Department of Employment Services. We do these 2 12-week cohorts each year. The program is administered by a sort of a solar installer called Grid Alternatives. The program is open to district residents who are over the age of 18. Participants get they get this sort of basic training, and they get a certification which is provided by the North American Board of Certified Energy Practitioners, which is sort of like the gold standard for this kind of work. Folks have moved successfully for this program. Like I said, we have this large solar system going in Oxen Run. It's over 2 megawatts, and a number of the folks working there are graduates of our program. So we're very, very proud of that. And so making sure that, as we're developing a lot of solar, we're also making sure that folks get access to sort of the skills involved in that, and they can participate in the program as well. It's sort of a key part of what we're trying to do. I think was that my last slide?
Thomas, I had a couple of questions that came through on comments. So you mentioned earlier giving grants to sub-partner organizations. What kind of, what amounts are we talking about? How big were these grants? And was this done through like an EOI, or was it an award, or did you have like a public tender for it? What was the process?
Yeah, so we put out a request for proposals. We have my agency has grant making authority. Obviously every place is different, but we have grant making authority. I think we had set aside around like a total of around $10 million. And so the grants were of different sizes. Some were in the hundreds of thousands of dollars. Some were well over $1 million. And it all just sort of depended on what the grantee was proposing to do. The size of the energy that they were proposing to sort of release and what they were proposing to do for residents. So some grantees were proposing to do over 1 megawatt, and so they got pretty sizable amount of money for that. And some were looking to do much smaller projects, just to a few hundred kilowatts. And then I think in all of the projects we also had that they were responsible for enrolling subscribers into their community renewable energy facilities. So that's what they were effectively building. So we were giving them money to build community renewable energy facilities, and then also to sign up residents to be enrolled and receive the benefits from those facilities. And so those facilities have to be they have to comply with like the utility standards, and they have to be so-called grid interconnected and meet all those kind of standards. So it's sometimes the grantee would subcontract that work out. So the grantee would be in charge mostly of the sort of the customer piece, and then they would contract out the solar installation piece. So people took a lot of different models to that, and so we ourselves are now kind of taking the role of sort of enrolling subscribers on is for my agency. That's what we do, and then we have there's something called the DC Sustainable Energy Utility, which is kind of a quasi government entity. It's not formally like a part of the district government, but it's sort of founded by the district government. And they're sort of like a separate entity. There's like a private company that sort of runs them, and they receive money from us, and then they contract with solar installers. So they're kind of our contracting entity for solar.
Fantastic. Thank you, Thomas. That was on time. That was amazing. So it's off our time for the webinar. Thomas, I want to thank you a lot for sharing your thoughts and expertise with us. And I know for a fact that a couple of folks on the call now, and some who weren't on the call, would definitely like to pick your brains on that. So I can probably send them your way over email.
Yes, please do. Please do. Yes.
Fantastic. And if anything of interest comes up here, we'll be sure to pass it down to you. And thank you to Farah and Jamie from Cadmus for organizing this. So this is Abi, and I know our time for webinar today has come to an end, but if some of us want to stay on the call for a couple of quick questions, then maybe we can do that for just a few more minutes. But what I will do is I will follow up with this recorded webinar presentation, notes, and some key information that we have compiled, and I'll send it out to your email. The slides will look much better than today, and I'm sorry to you, Thomas, and because your slides were perfect. Somehow when I threw it up on the system, it looks like this, but when they go out to you, they will look as beautiful and pristine as when Thomas sent them out to us. So thanks again, everyone. If anyone has any few last questions, we can stay on for just a few more minutes. If not, sayonara, I guess, and I'll see you around in a couple of weeks for our next webinar. Okay. Wow, almost everyone is still on the call, so that can only mean, I'm assuming, that we all have a few questions.
It's Allison here. I'm going to sign off. I just want to say thank you so much to Thomas and to Farah and to you, Abby, for a great webinar. Thanks so much.
Bye-bye. Okay. I think our members are uncharacteristically shy today. So it is, I'm sure there will be questions. And again, Abby, will follow up with our lead project members on specifics that they're working on, and we'll pick up from where we left off today. Thanks again, everyone. Thank you, Thomas. Thank you, Farah. And thank you, Jamie. And have a wonderful week ahead, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Thanks, all. Thanks, Abby. Bye.